the United Healthcare CEO was going to a board meeting in New York City. How much do you all know about this story? Actually,
Zero. I know
Zero.
basically nothing about that. I know that it happened. I've seen like one still frame of the Ivy League graduate, but other than
Luigi. We'll refer to
Luigi.
him as Luigi's Mansion from here on out.
allegedly Luigi's Mansion.
Jared, can you point your camera up? I think there's a rock over your house that you might be
Is
looking
it?
under.
Class is now in session.
Welcome back to episode 19 of the 9 Degrees Podcast, the #1 non-educational, education-themed podcast in the world. We may have 9 degrees among us, but we still don't know much about anything. We'll keep you informed about the most interesting current events in the world, but use a fact checker, because we sure don't. As always, I'm your boy, Jerome. I guess I should have changed that in the script. Anyways, you got Jackson, Maddox, Jared. Jerome, unfortunately, could not be with us today. He's traveling to Japan to visit his newborn niece. So, best wishes to Jerome's sister and her family. As always, remember that you can catch the audio version of this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you find podcasts, including the video version on youtube.com/JeromeVoz. Make sure to follow us on all the socials as well, at 9 Degrees Pod on everything, and come join the classroom on Discord. Class is now in session. What's up, everyone? Let's go straight into homeroom. Anyone have any? Actually, you know what? I got a gripe. I got a gripe that I want to talk about. So there's something. Okay, I have a friend who will remain nameless, but they did something recently that I was like, it's a common thing, and I don't want to say they're weird for this, but it's something that's always bothered me. It's gender reveals.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Is every single gripe you bring to the podcast just targeted at one of the professors?
I mean, look, I'm not using this as a way to shield criticisms that I make of my friends, but I mean, I'm just I'm a critical person. I criticize myself too.
All right, elaborate. And for the listeners, I just did a gender reveal, so this is probably where this is going.
Which, by the way, congratulations to you and
thank you,
your wife. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm just not a fan of gender reveals. And okay, well, let's get some context here, Maddox. I think you and your wife, you did it you just did it at your home or something. What'd you do actually?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't make a big. These days people do big events. I mean, we had a cake made with the color corresponding to the gender, the traditional colors, stereotypical gender colors, let's say. And we I think my mom was there and my brother, and we FaceTimed my wife's parents. And we recorded it and sent it to our family and friends and stuff. But yeah, we just cut the cake, and that was the extent of it.
Who ordered the cake? Clearly not you or Hannah.
So the way it works, and I never knew how it worked until I had a child. So you have to have a child to figure it out. Apparently, no. Basically, the result, she had blood work done with a bunch of different, a bunch of different information in it, including the gender of the baby, and that information was texted to us. And instead of opening the link and looking at it, we just sent it to my mom, and she was the one that looked at it first, and then she had the cake made, and then a week later we revealed it. So
So Jackson, is your criticism at every level of gender reveals, or is it only for the ones that cause wildfires in California?
That's a excellent question, because I'm curious.
I mean,
did I really cross the line here with our modest private family gender reveal?
I mean, I can criticize anything. I will say though that I am not a fan of the bombastic, making it a social event. But at the heart of the matter, though, here's what I don't like about gender reveals is I don't think it matters. I think that we as a society, we put too much interest or too much significance on gender already. I mean, have you ever seen those videos of the husband who gets like the fourth daughter, and they're just like they fall to their knees during the gender reveal party.
Yeah,
I've seen videos of people getting their first daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like that's toxic, but at the same time, I think like, especially like when you created this thing, whether or not we should place emphasis on it. I mean, it's still like exciting to find out for the first time, right?
Mhm.
Like you want to like make it a special thing that you remember, right?
I mean,
It shouldn't just be like a non-event.
it could have been exciting at the hospital. You could have a nice event with your ultrasound technician.
Well, yeah, I've heard of people doing it like not knowing until it's born and then finding out like in the delivery room, and I feel like that would be kind of
I don't know. What my parents told me is that like they were surprised when the ultrasound technician told them. So the surprise is you get the surprise whether it happens there or later on, or in front of an audience of 50 screaming friends and relatives, with an air show with confetti.
Jackson, when you eventually have your child, you can celebrate / not celebrate the gender however you choose to.
I'm actually going to have a party where I emphatically am not going to reveal the gender. And that's going to be the theme of the party.
You should have a cake that has like both colors. Like just every slice is either blue or pink.
And be like, psych! you all got played. I just philosophically owned everyone who came to this party.
I hope I get invited to that. To that party.
All right. Anyone else have anything happen this week?
I've got a not this week in particular gripe, more of like the end of the year gripe, especially for companies. I feel like every like competent worker, at least in the US, my gripe is that the last like 2 months out of the year, everybody decides like, oh yeah, we have to like get all this work done that like we just haven't been doing over like the entire year, or they just want to like finish out a project or tie a nice bow on everything. I feel like every competent worker is getting overworked at the point in the year where nobody wants to work. So that's my overall gripe. Like everybody wants to push around Thanksgiving and then we get behind. And then they want to push around the holidays at the end of the year, Christmas for those who celebrate, and we're still behind. And then we just start the next year behind. And it's like we just do this cycle every single year. So my gripe is more this push at the end of the year. I want to go full Europe. I want everybody to just like stop working in December. And I just want us to all just call TV timeout and just be done with it. I feel like all the people who can like actually do a job are just getting pushed to the limit. So that's my gripe.
That's interesting because from my, I don't know, experience being in the workforce, I find that people tend to like turn their brains off in December and they just like, they're like pretending, it's like pretending to work kind of thing, but nothing really gets done in the month of December.
Yeah, I just like for like it might be like specific areas. Like I know people who we have friends who are like lawyers, and they, or at least the ones that I've talked to, it's like there's these huge pushes to like get deals done. I know like in my work, there's like not necessarily like do or die deliverables, but there's just like checkpoints that people just want to like get done before the start of the year. And I just feel like everybody who's like the heads, like the people who are like running everything, just like want to get another deal done. They just want to like hit another deliverable. And it's like all the people who have been like putting in their like solid work just get pushed that like extra like 10%. I don't know. It just reinforces me. I just want to take like 3 weeks of like PTO off at the end of the year and just be like, figure it out on your own.
I could see from, in certain industries where your annual numbers like matter a lot, there could be an incentive to try to produce more right there at the end to try to get your end of the year number to look as good as possible.
Exactly.
But I'm with you. I've always not hated the holidays, but I've always wished that Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's were like spread out more. Or if we're gonna have them all closer together, like you said, like let's just not work. Like why are we even trying to act like that's the priority right now?
Exactly. Let me go home. Let me just sit on my couch and drink mimosas with my family. Like that's what I want to do anyways. That's what I'm going to be doing. Let's just stop like lying to ourselves.
Well, that could be the future. It's our responsibility to build that future. So,
and I'm locked in. So that small gripe, but yeah, that's kind of my one. That's my holiday gripe, we'll call it.
So since our last episode, we all attended our 10-year high school reunion.
Oh yeah, that did happen. I forgot. It seems so long ago, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. It does feel like a long time ago now. Do you before I get into my observations, do you guys just want to like, did you enjoy it? Was it worth going to? I've talked to a lot of people, not like, so our 10-year reunion was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and then my wife's 10-year reunion, who went to high school in Alabama, her 10-year reunion was the Friday after Thanksgiving. So we literally almost did we did my 10-year reunion, Thanksgiving, her 10-year reunion. So I was talking to a lot of people at her reunion that like the significant others of people there that didn't actually go to that high school, but were there on behalf of the people that did. And many of them didn't go to their 10-year reunion. And so I was just, it seems like a lot of people, I don't know, it seems very split where, some people were like, yeah, cool, like let's reconnect everyone, and then people are like, no, there's no way I'd go to that. What are your guys thoughts on that? Why is it that way?
Oh, well, I don't know about that, but I'll just say personally, I actually really enjoyed the 10-year reunion, and my takeaway from it is like, I feel like the people who weren't there, they really missed out. I mean, 90% of the people there, will I talk to them before the next reunion? Probably not. Doubt it. Sorry to anyone listening, but but I thought it was a nice event. It was good talking to people that I don't normally talk to. You guys were there, but I really didn't talk to you that much. I talked to like people that we don't normally see. And it was a nice atmosphere. There was about 80 classmates there?
Close to that, yeah.
Out of like 300 something. So, 25, 30%
well,
of our class.
I think some of that number was significant others, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how many? It seemed
I don't know.
There were like 100 people there total. Maybe 80 of them were probably classmates. So that's pretty. I think that's a pretty good draw.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so here's an observation that I had. And so I want to go through all the things that I've done in my life, or like noteworthy things that I've done in my life since since I was in high school. Okay.
Okay.
So following high school, I went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where I studied economics. And during my time there, Jackson?
How long is this list going to be? Are we gonna?
You're a very accomplished man.
Is this going to be the title of the podcast? MADDOX talks about his whole life
since high school.
I'm going to consolidate it. I went on semester at sea while I was there, where I traveled to 12 different countries and met my current wife.
Shout out Hannah.
I graduated in... I feel bad now, but I want to make a point.
Okay, keep going.
We're in 2018.
I feel like the point is going to be worthwhile, okay? Graduated, moved to Savannah, Georgia, where my wife... not my wife then, but my wife now.
Shout out Hannah.
Got her master's, and I did my master's at Purdue online. During that time, I also started an investment advisory firm. Following that, I got my real estate license and started working the real estate business with my mother. That was 2021. Between then and now, I've started this podcast with my friends. I have started a Turo rental car business, and I got married in Banff, Canada, and then I have recently had I'm having a baby in May. Okay, so in the 10 years, I would say those were the highlights of my life. Okay,
you moved around as well. You hit a couple.
Yeah,
cities.
And I lived in some different places, that type of thing. When you go to a 10-year reunion and you're talking to people that you literally haven't talked to since high school, you're kind of interested in what do people know about me, right? Like, what are they going to know about me? about what I've done and that type of thing. And so, do you guys know the number one thing that people commented about my life?
It's got to be
from all those things.
It's got to be the podcast.
The podcast, yes, the podcast. Which I love the podcast, but I would not deem it nearly as noteworthy as like some of the other events in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at some point, but right now, it's pretty modest in terms of. But so my observation is the way people perceive you is literally just the last thing that they saw on social media about you.
Yeah,
and maybe that should be obvious, but I've never felt it so real than during this time of reconnecting with people that you haven't talked to in 10 years, and them literally coming up to you and knowing about you because of this thing that you don't really think anyone's paying attention to, but clearly people are paying attention to it. So that was my observation. I hope that my point was not too long-winded there. I want to also say, well, I forgot now. So if you guys any other.
So something that I think that was like a recurring theme, like, this is like what a lot of people talk about. They say, okay, where am I living now? What's my job? Am I in a relationship or not? I don't know. It's very, to me, that sort of stuff is like, I guess the relationship thing is whatever. I can't relate. I'm single. For the audience listening. But like, my job, like, I don't feel like my job really defines me. There's like other things in my life I care about besides my job. So, but it's hard to, it's hard to define myself. Maybe I should have done like MADDOX and made a list. Well, I don't know if you did this, but I should have made a list of things that I'd done in the last 10 years. And
you can, I didn't make a list. I just rattled off you haven't, you don't just have like a record of your.
Well, but like, see, that's like, that stuff's not very interesting to me. Because it happened to me and I experienced it. I think other people think it's significant, but I think like the here and the now, my passions is what's important to me. But like, it's hard to convey your passions,
Yeah.
It's like,
I try to do it all the time.
I play a lot of pickleball now. I'm like, it's not really going to catch.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people that are into pickleball and or tennis. So I mean, that's like a relatable topic.
Yeah.
I guess, but
sorry, I remember my other point. So the people that were coming up to me talking about the podcast were generally like talking about it positively, and it, I'm always. I'm kind of a skeptic at heart, but when people are doing that, I'm like, okay, do they genuinely like the podcast, or is it just the only talking point that they have with me? So they just come up to me and like start talking about it excitedly.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say, is that even when you have like interesting things to talk about, what I found is that like it didn't, like if it was like with a random person, like even if you guys had interesting things to talk about, you really only had like a minute's worth of conversation. It was only the people who like wanted to talk to you more generally who you had like prolonged conversations with. So I think the podcast is like a positive thing that somebody can latch onto that could then allow you to be like, oh yeah, I've also been doing this and that and the other. But I found that there were a lot of people who it's like, oh, what are you up to? And then after 30 seconds, it's just kind of like looking around, being like,
yeah,
all
just
right,
like,
I guess I'm going to go this way.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was saying. Like, was this just like an easy talking point for people that you're in kind of this, awkward situation? I mean, it wasn't like terribly awkward, but just like where you're just like making small talk with people, that was just like a saving grace for people. Like, oh, I know that he is doing this thing, so I can talk to him about that.
And going back to your original point, that might be why, people are averse to going to their reunion, like people were at that other reunion you went to. I honestly kind of felt like that, like sometimes too. Like it's like, oh, this is kind of awkward. Do I really care about talking to this person? Nevertheless, I did enjoy the experience as a whole. So, and I'm not the kind of person to enjoy social experiences.
Yeah, I I deem it kind of one of these. I feel like this is kind of a recurring thing in life where it's like, does anyone like is anyone like really genuinely like so excited to go to this thing? Probably not, but like it's just like one of those things that you do, and then you get some like it adds value. Is it like the thing that you're most excited for ever? No, like because there's going to be like some potential social like anxiety, awkwardness type stuff, but it's like I don't know. It's just one of those things that to me it's just one of those things that you do regardless of if it is a little uncomfortable or not.
Well, I guess Maddox. Well, yeah, you going to Hannah's. What's your like reaction on the other side of it? Because you go to the one that we went to, you knew people. Obviously, you had this friend group. Then you had like you had a larger friend group that was at the reunion for us. How was it like being on the other side of it? Like when you were a significant other?
I got to enjoy the food a little bit more because I was not constantly talking to people. At ours I didn't
really.
Our
reunion. I did that. We had a good charcuterie board. Yeah.
Yes.
I never missed that.
I didn't get to eat much of it just because I was like, I feel like I was constantly in conversation. So
about the podcast.
Yeah, because we're just so popular out here.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Anyway, I think that's enough. I think we've lingered on about our 10-year reunion. We probably lost some people here. Do we want to get into first period with Jackson?
Yeah. No, let's get into the most exciting news story of the last couple of weeks.
Maybe of the year. Dare I say the year?
Yeah, maybe the year. So the United Healthcare CEO. So this happened. When did that happen? Like beginning of December, first week of December. Was going to a board meeting in New York City walking, which actually surprised me. I thought he might, you see like
taking
shows
his
like
private jet,
or a private car, was walking to a hotel in Manhattan, New York City, and was down by an assailant who looked like he was, stalking him out and intentionally him. And then there was a massive manhunt for several days, and then the assailant was caught in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's, and his name is Luigi Maginone. He's, in a surprising turn of events, he's an Ivy League graduate, kind of like me. He comes from a wealthy family in Baltimore, Maryland. Jared,
let's go.
Not the stereotypical or criminal or whatnot, and he's now in jail and waiting, processing and trial and whatnot. But this whole thing has been a giant, news story since the beginning. Like Maddox said, it might be one of the biggest stories of the year. It's certainly had me captivated. Before I get into anything specific that I wanted to talk about, what are some general thoughts? How much do you all know about this story? Actually,
0. I know
0.
I know basically nothing about that. I know that it happened. I've seen like one still frame of the person who the Ivy League graduate, but other than
Luigi. We'll refer to him as Luigi's Mansion from here on out.
Allegedly Luigi's Mansion. I've seen like a picture. That's it.
Jared, can you point your camera up? I think there's a rock over your house that you might be looking under.
There's a giant sword. Yeah.
So I don't follow the news as much. I'm surprised that I'm more informed than Jared is, because typically I'm on the other side of that. Mostly just because I happened to be at my dad's house the other night, who had the news on, and so I saw it there. I don't ever think I've turned the news on myself, but and then just via social media, I've been seeing people's posts about it. Granted, I don't know if the stuff I've been seeing is accurate or not, but I can at least talk to what my algorithm is telling me people are talking about, which is
talk about that relevant. Actually. Yeah, talk about that.
Okay, so I've been dying to talk about this because I think it's hilarious. But so people are talking about Luigi like he's a real life Michael Scofield. Have you guys seen this? Do you know who Michael Scofield is?
Who's Michael? Is he of like the Scofield?
No.
On the peppers.
Wasn't he the finance guy out of no?
Have you guys not seen Prison Break?
Oh,
No.
no.
Okay, so people were talking about Luigi as if he's a real life Michael Scofield. Michael Scofield, if you haven't seen Prison Break, is the main character who gets himself intentionally put into prison to break his brother out of prison, who was he was put into prison and he was going to be executed. And so the only way his brother could save his life is to go in and break him out. And
I remember this now.
he didn't just go in there willy-nilly. He was in the show, he's like an engineer, and kind of they make him out to be like this genius, and he had this big premeditated plan that mapped out every detail of breaking him out and how they were going to stay out once they got out, that type of thing, without trying to spoil anything. But the reason I think it's hilarious is because I'm currently in the middle of rewatching Prison Break for the third time now in my life, and it is one of my favorite shows. I watched it as when I was a kid, as it was coming out with my brother. So mostly for nostalgic reasons, I think, is why I like it. And then I watched it again in high school. And now I'm making my wife watch it because she's never watched it, and she's struggling to get through it because it's especially now that I'm older watching it, I realize it's not the there's some holes in it, and it's not. But anyway, I still really love it. I think it's hilarious that people are comparing Luigi to Michael Scofield. Let's say, Luigi has left a trail of breadcrumbs that would suggest that this wasn't just a random event. This was, he obviously was a little bit disgruntled with the healthcare system and was motivate specifically his interactions with the claims at United Healthcare. And I think there's at least some evidence that suggests that this was premeditated and he had purpose in doing this and he was trying to make a point. But do we think that it was more than that? Do we think that there's more than that, and more is going to come out about potentially there being more of that he has planned more to either reveal more about things going on in the healthcare system or the health insurance, or that this is part of maybe like a bigger movement that more people were involved in? Do we think any of that's going on, or do we think he's just kind of left some Easter eggs just to like make his point about why he did this?
Okay, so let me back up first and just explain for anyone who didn't know, just kind of quickly go through what we know and can speculate about as to his motives. So, things we know, when the was committed, Luigi had been staking out, like he had been in front of the hotel where Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was going to walk in for about 10 minutes or so. So obviously it seemed like he had planned and he knew something about his route ahead of time. After he was arrested, information was found online that his friends came out and said that Luigi had been having chronic back issues for several months. People found his Goodreads account, and on his Goodreads account, he had left a review of the book published by Ted Kaczynski, The Unabomber, in which I forget the nature of the review, but basically it was saying that whenever you can't do something, vigilante justice sometimes has to happen, or something like that.
Well, I think specifically he used the term referring to him as a political revolutionary.
There you go. Yes, that's actually a great word, 2 words to describe his sort of mindset. There's been some information that has come out about him having issues with United Healthcare. Well, maybe United Healthcare, maybe another insurance company, about denying a claim for himself, possibly also his mother. I'm sure that as time goes on, these things will become more clarified. And also, let me share this with you all. I heard, and I don't have any confirmation about this, but that's typical for us. I heard that he had a YouTube channel where he had scheduled uploads for actually the last couple of days, but after he was arrested, YouTube terminated his account, and so his videos aren't going to upload. So we'll never know what was in
I
the
also
videos.
heard that or saw a video about that. So
Yeah, was this personal, or did he have like a greater, greater purpose? Maybe a little bit of both is my guess. But I also don't like to speculate too much.
well, so I'm saying it does seem like it was personal, and he was trying to make a bigger point about the healthcare system by these, I don't know, these breadcrumbs that he left or whatever.
Yeah. Let's actually segue into this. So let me ask you this: what do you guys know about the reaction to this whole thing? Because I mean, it's been getting a lot of media coverage.
Yeah, so I think that is what part of what's most interesting about this, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I'm just consuming the data that my algorithm is feeding me, so I could be completely biased here, and I mean no disrespect to Brian and his family, but it does kind of seem like there's a sentiment of good riddance here, as from what I'm seeing about people's reaction. And obviously a person is passed, and that's tragic, and someone caused that, and that's not okay. But I think this kind of reflects people's frustration with the current state of health insurance, which, I mean, is it incorrect to say that the overwhelming majority of Americans feel like the health insurance system is a racket?
I mean,
Probably not. That's probably accurate.
So,
yeah,
there are probably, myself included, people that can relate to the feelings that Luigi was probably feeling, and having at some point struggled with health insurance not serving their needs adequately. So I think that's probably driving a lot of the sentiment around it. I think there's also maybe like there's this perspective of, well, the crime that he committed is not okay, but has the CEO not committed a similar crime hundreds, thousands, millions of times under the guise of a corporate veil through health insurance claim denials?
Yeah, so that's kind of been sort of a narrative that emerged right after the crime took place, before we even knew anything about the motives of the. People were just basically saying, and I think it was clear pretty early on in the investigation that this was like intentional, and whether or not the was found to have done this for any sort of political reason, people were sort of latching onto this as a sort of cause célèbre. That, again, like what you said, the healthcare system in the United States is bad, and it doesn't look like anything's being done to fix it. That's kind of been the sentiment for a long time. And then I also want to talk about this. So I want to sort of do a meta analysis of the media coverage of this issue, because if you look at the media or the coverage of this issue on social media, and the reactions of this to this issue, to this whole ordeal on social media, and then in the mainstream print and television media, vastly different. I mean, as MADDOX referred, and as I've seen from the many Reddit posts I've consumed on this, the general sentiment of the of people online is that he had it coming. We're not going to cry any tears for the CEO of United Healthcare. But then if you look at the mainstream media, it was all kind of like, well, there was this idea that oh, there's a manhunt, there's a public danger, when really that wasn't exactly true, because he wasn't targeting people at random. He was targeting a healthcare CEO, a health insurance CEO. general condemnatory like tone, whereas that same tone has not been taken on social media. So it's been a very stark contrast in like those two different media, those two
Well,
different fields.
do you think that there's the distinction because the media the people that are in the big media outlets or maybe mingle with the same people that are CEOs at major corporations?
Yes, and we're kind of getting into the territory of like, billionaires run the world, run the country, which as I get older, as years go by, I start to believe that more and more that because I mean, the reason why a lot of these healthcare issues aren't getting fixed and health insurance companies, I mean, aren't being regulated is because they pay lots of money to Congress members and politicians, and they lobby politicians. And the reason why the media isn't talking about this is because the billionaires who own them, they have an they invest in health insurance companies, and so, it,
Well, so I think this is, while I thought this was obvious, but I think this has certainly revealed that, distaste for the current health insurance healthcare system is pretty widespread and agreed upon across parties. So my question is like, why was that not a focal point of this past election? Like, we have this thing here that like people agree about and people really, want to be changed, and honestly should be maybe like one of the most relevant things to people's lives, like your literal health, like the quality of your life, the longevity of your life. That is maybe the most crucial thing, the most crucial topic that you should be caring about. And people are in agreement about it, and people are tired of it. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, no politician that we were allowed to vote for had any meaningful was running on any
revolutionary.
meaningful like way to change that. So why are we have these things that we all agree on, we all agree that are messed up, we all want change, yet we have no path to changing them. So I mean, I think that's why people see this as this is the path. Oh, I'll put it. I mean, I'll put it as a question: like, are we at this point in society where this is the kind of thing that has to happen for actual meaningful change to, occur?
Short answer, yes. I don't know. Yeah. Do you have anything to say about this, Jared?
I'd push back a little bit. Again, I haven't followed it that much, so mine is just I'm going to focus on that last question more than anything else. But I mean, no, I mean we've seen meaningful change in the last 20 years. I mean, in 2000, like in the Obama presidency, there was a pretty big change. So I don't think it's at the point where you have to go out and do this kind of event to get like things to change. I don't know. I never really have a good beat on social media because I don't really use it that much. So I don't know how like people have been covering that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little reactionary. But yeah, I mean,
but again, that was also like that you're talking about Obamacare, right? That was like that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think.
I mean that's less than a lifetime though. When you're talking about like significant change.
But like when you have people out there, like MADDOX, for example, who they have issues with the health insurance industry. Obamacare getting passed, it didn't seem to like fix everything. It seems there's still problems with it. And like MADDOX said, healthcare, I didn't think it was a major part of the campaigning that either politician did. I think if you look at exit polls, people will say healthcare was not one of their most important issues.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a result of no one was really talking about it. And then I also think that this is an issue that like these political parties, they have to like, well, one, they have to ask themselves, do we actually want to make this change? Because again, going back to the like billionaires control everything, there's a lot of donors for politicians who have the interest of health insurance companies, and they say, oh, we don't want change.
Mm-hmm.
But but then you look at the populist approach. A lot of people have a problem with this. And I think if you actually did something to effect meaningful change, I think you get a lot of votes. It's kind of
Well-
a reckoning that we're going through as a society.
Well, I got a couple things. One, Jared, I get your point, and it's like I do think democracy will do its thing and it'll make the change happen over time. But I would say, looking back to Obamacare and like that time, like I'm about to have a kid in 6 months. Like I need to know that my health insurance is going to cover that right now. I don't need to know that democracy is going to do its thing over 100 year, like a century. You know, like a like that doesn't help me.
Yeah, I know.
And so, yeah, and then the other thing is like, I think that, you know, the candidate in the recent history that has campaigned on meaningful change to the current healthcare system, you know, largely just gets thrown away as a communist, which is unfortunate because I don't know, like, you know, where else, like, again, like, where else was the change coming from? Who, like, how? If everyone wants this and there's literally no hope for it, like what do we turn to?
I mean, on this point, and this is like the last little addendum and piece of information I'll add is I had seen something about this like a month or two ago that there was another health insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think, the group that whatever conglomerate owns them. They said that they were going to start charging for anesthesia per hour, and conveniently, after all of these events that have gone down happened, they reversed their decision. That's when they announced that they had reversed their decision in the last several days. So that's change.
Yeah,
Who knows if it was caused by Luigi, but
so you know, I actually want to walk myself back here a little bit because in previous episodes we had talked about Mark Cuban creating a new health insurance company that should try to disrupt the industry as he did with cost plus drugs in the pharmaceutical industry. So that's a source of hope, and maybe this makes that type of thing more viable. Where, you know, in the status quo environment, there would be maybe effort to, you know, mute that, whereas maybe now that it's going to get more adoption, you know, or there might be increased probabilities that will come to market and be a legitimate solution for people. I sure hope so. I think it would be, and you know, that would be through the mechanism of capitalism and not through government, you know, having to wait around for policy and that type of thing. It would be through sheer demand. I think the problem with that in the past has probably been there's in the weird way that our society works, there's innovation that seeks to disrupt things that have existed, and there's motivation for them to continue to exist. It's hard for those things to come to life, but maybe now the chances are higher that actually becomes a reality. I was seeing things about people speculating that he is just like a pawn in this bigger movement, and there's other people involved that this is just kind of the start of something much bigger. And so it's interesting because I don't think there's any evidence that is happening yet, but there is evidence. There are other people that are kind of piggybacking off of this, and it's kind of creating a movement, which is probably if the movement hadn't already started and he was just sparking it, he has sparked a movement because of it. A couple of examples: a woman from Florida, I think, already was arrested because she was on a call with Blue Cross Blue Shield and was essentially yelling at them, "You people are next."
Oh God.
You know, and then I've seen people posting wanted posters of the other major health insurance CEOs in places. So yeah, regardless of if there was a bigger movement that he was a part of, or did he start a bigger movement? I feel like he has started a bigger movement, regardless of if the actions of those people are right. Again, it's just like people are upset about this, and this is giving them a chance to speak out about it more.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Challenge it.
Yeah, in 6 months, I'll be curious to revisit this. If this is just kind of a one-off and people get riled up about it and then settle back out, or if people get riled up about it and then it actually leads to something that's progressive in a way.
Well, people can get riled up about it, but whether or not something changes, that's a whole different question. It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
I kind of wish he hadn't the guy. I wish he had just like kidnapped him or something,
Yeah,
we can cut that out
harder
if
to
we need
execute.
to.
That's a little harder to execute.
I know, but it would have been like more. It would have taken more, planning and stuff, and then there wouldn't be as much of a reason to dismiss him. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's hard for me. The event that happened, we'll say in more broad terms, it's hard for me to ever get behind that for any reason. I mean, you can paint gray areas all day, and this is maybe certainly one of them. But I don't know. That's a tough one for me to ever, condone to see that kind of happen. So I'm kind of with you in that regard. I wish it would have been something a little less, I don't know, just something a little less violent,
more civil, let's say.
Yeah, to an extent. But I mean, I get it. Revolution isn't built on civility,
being polite, and
yeah, civility doesn't get you the headlines.
No, it does
unfortunately.
Not. Nope.
All right. So a lot, obviously that was a big news story. There's a lot to talk about. We might talk about it in the episodes to come, but anyways, let's move on to another recurring topic. TikTok. There was a decision came down in an appeals court that denied TikTok's appeal to overturn the law that was passed in Congress essentially banning the company or banning the app unless ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, sold. So an appeals court has denied that appeal, and so now it looks like pending another appeal, which I suspect is going to happen, but pending another appeal, TikTok is set to be banned in, I think, let me see, sometime in 2025, in the first half of 2025.
Wow, I didn't notice that quick.
Yeah, and another thing, and I didn't know this until recently, this happened back when the law was first passed. ByteDance, the company that owns TikTok, explicitly stated that they were not going to sell TikTok, and so they were going to let it be banned in the United States. So we've talked a lot about this ban. We've sort of given our thoughts about it in previous episodes. I know that I've not really been I've said I'm not a big fan, and I think that this sort of, there's alternatives to TikTok that just do just bad things and collect data on people, and bad social media, boogeyman, whatever. I think that this ban is kind of political and a little silly, but it's not looking good for TikTok. What are we? I don't know. I don't know how much you guys use TikTok, but I use TikTok a lot. I probably use it like every day. I would say. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't know how I'm going to fill the boredom.
Become more connected to Reddit,
I guess, because I know that Instagram Reels are not going to fill the void, because Instagram Reels are terrible compared to TikTok.
That's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, just coming off of the last topic, I'm just like, why are we putting resources into this? Like, there's other stuff that people care way more about.
Yeah, Jared, this is the change that happened. This is a bill that got passed, and no healthcare bill got passed, as far as I know.
Honestly, the more when we originally talked about this, I didn't really care because I just don't use TikTok, so like it just doesn't affect me. Politics being local, whatever. But the more that I hear this and the more that this keeps getting brought up, the more ridiculous it does seem to me, because of all the reasons that we've talked about, to the point where I'm just now convinced that this whole thing is just absolutely ridiculous, and it's just the powers that be wanting to have the market. Like, I mean, we talk about like the healthcare, where it's like healthcare is just like a huge industry. So they have deep pockets, so they can influence at every level. It's the same thing with technology companies, right? I mean, we just talked about Instagram Reels. There's all kinds of different, like Meta as just a company is trying to make roads with the new presidency in 2025 about trying to keep TikTok out of that space so that they can have more exclusive or a bigger piece of that pie. So yeah, I mean, it feels like a similar story in just a different market where there's powers that be that can make a lot of money if TikTok isn't there, if they can just influence people to get rid of it. And for whatever reason, it's worked because, for a variety of different reasons. But yeah, the more I hear about it, the more just ridiculous it seems. There's, to Jackson's point, every single app does it. So to single out the one app that was, founded in China or in the Eastern Asia or whatever, it just feels very targeted for pretty bad reasons.
Yeah. I also, I'm like, what is banned TikTok going to look like? Are they, I'm going to try to get on the app and it's just, I'm going to be blocked in that area or it's going to,
Or are we going to have another Flappy Bird situation where the app's just going to come off the App Store? Does anyone still have Flappy Bird on their phone, by the way?
That phone probably is worth some money if anyone does.
I think I used to have it on my old phone, but not on my new phone.
I had it on my iPod Touch, which I don't think I still have, unfortunately, but I wish I did.
Yeah.
Sorry to all those people who were not like teenagers in the mid 2010s who don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Go look it up with flip phones.
Yeah. But yeah, so interesting development. Well, like I said, I think they'll go to the Supreme Court if they have to. But I don't have high hopes for TikTok.
I grew up anti-social media. Like in high school and stuff, I was like, I didn't have the apps on my phone and I was like really proud of it. I've become more privy to it in terms of I post stuff on there, but I try not to scroll.
You literally do a podcast.
Yeah, I do the podcast, but
and have a YouTube.
I've accepted social media as a good way to connect with larger audiences, which can benefit me in my life. So, but I do try to stay away from scrolling too far because it quickly gets toxic.
Death.
But yeah, for that reason, I'm like, I've put some hours into making TikToks, and the government wants to just make that go to waste, but they don't want to fix our healthcare system. Okay.
Yeah. Government's really coming after you, MADDOX. You in particular.
Yeah. They just want my car videos that I've worked so hard on to get removed from the internet.
By the way, everyone who's watching, go to Max's TikTok. He's been uploading some new TikToks recently. You've been working on for a long time, right?
Yeah, one of them took me from recording to posting was like an 8-month time frame. So that shows you where my priorities lie. But I had to get it out there because our other professor is allegedly purchasing a vehicle soon, and we're hopefully, I don't know if we're gonna make it work out, but hopefully I'm gonna come to Baltimore, I think is where he's getting it. And maybe we can get some content about him getting his new car. So I had some content about me getting my new car, which was the previous year. So I was like, I should probably get this out before the new one comes out. Anyway, so I edited it and I posted it, and it's completely flopped. So yeah, actually take Jackson's suggestion and go watch my video.
Please, this man's about to have a child. He needs it.
I need the views. My child can't be born to a failed content creator.
Yeah, that's rough.
This podcast is sponsored by And Collar. And Collar is an affordable men's clothing company where products are sustainably made with the equivalent of 15 recycled plastic water bottles. Their shirts have 4-way stretch, are machine washable, liquid repellent, and wrinkle and stain resistant. You can go to andcollar.com right now and get 15% off using code 9 for 15% off. Thanks to And Collar.
All right. Moving on into second period. MADDOX, what have you got for us today?
All right. Hopefully I can take us into a lighter-hearted territory. So I got my recurring segment, business ideas, the good and the bad. I'm excited about this one, but I feel like it's going to be one that you guys are not going to be into. Um,
Can I ask
Also-
a quick question?
yeah.
Have you ever presented the good and the bad, and we have actually agreed that you think the good one, we also think it's the good one, and that you think the bad one, we also think the bad one, or does it always flip?
Um,
I think sometimes we think they're both bad. That's
okay,
usually
well,
what happens.
to be fair, it was initially supposed to be a good idea and a bad idea, but in recent episodes, it's just been a single idea, and then you guys get to determine if it's a good or a bad idea.
Okay.
So the segment's evolved a little bit. So yeah, it's just a single idea. Although I did just have an idea for a new Flappy Bird reboot. I'm sure that already exists. So I was at my nephew is getting into the Pokemon trading card game. He's kind of at that age where trading card games are more exciting.
By the way, can I just jump in and say that I feel like Pokemon the trading card game was like kind of a joke when we were younger, but it seems like in recent years it's just like I see it everywhere.
Yeah,
I see it more than
it's
Pokemon, the video game.
oh yeah, and the video game was, I think, more popular than the card game was when we were at that age.
Oh yeah.
So part of this, there recently a version of the Pokemon trading card game came out as an app recently, and I've been playing it, and I think that has brought a lot more attention to the actual trading card game itself. And I also just think there's like a nostalgia component where people that were into it as a kid now like have money and like can collect the cards and trading card games are an expensive hobby, contrary to what people may think. Yu-Gi-Oh is like to compete competitively at Yu-Gi-Oh, you had to have like at least $1,000. When I played several years ago, at least it's probably more than that now. So my nephew is getting into the Pokemon trading card game. So I was in Alabama where he lives a couple weekends ago, and I took him to a trading card shop. And while I was there, I had an idea for a great new business. One, I just wanted to create it. Now I just want to make a card shop here in Maryville, our hometown, because the trading card shop that I used to play at recently closed, and now there is not a trading card shop in Maryville. So if anyone wants to go in on that endeavor with me, please let me know.
I'll give you
$20. That seems like the bad business idea because
it just failed. That's what I said. I texted my friends that I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh with. I said, so either it's a really great opportunity to now open a card shop in Maryville, or it is a terrible idea because there's been a downward trend in card shops.
Only way to find out.
So there is a online marketplace for almost every trading card, I think, in existence called TCG Player, and you can buy and sell. I think almost any trading card. I'm pretty sure sports cards are on there too, but definitely Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, all those types of games are on there, and it's a marketplace. So, there are small individual businesses. Like I had a business account set up on there, and I would sell cards to people. People would buy online, and I'd ship them out to people. When I was younger, and more established businesses run very big, legitimate businesses on there. So anyway, TCG Player has created this big marketplace where there are tons of listings for every type of card and every condition, and they have a cool app where you can basically just put your camera over a card and it'll scan it and it'll instantly show you like the market pricing for the card. So my business idea was, when I was in this card shop, there was just these huge just pile, like Tupperwares full of cards that the person was having to sort through and then enter them into the system to sell them. And I was like, if you could create like a ATM machine that takes cards in and connects to that TCG Player marketplace, scans them automatically for, condition and the rarity and all that, and instantly, gets the market price. One, that would be like an incredible asset for trading card like retail stores, because they could just, put their cards in automatically and it would list them and organize them for them. And then 2, I was thinking this could be like a standalone ATM machine that you could just put in like malls and stuff, and it could be like a self-sustaining like ecosystem where you could go and cards you had, you could put them in and it would give you a price and you could accept it, and it would take your card, and then the card would be in the machine and someone else could come buy it from the machine. And it would just be like a self-sustaining, like just like, I don't know, like standalone piece of infrastructure, kind of like a gumball machine or like a claw machine, but like it could take in the cards and it could sell cards, and it would just be completely automated. You wouldn't have to have like someone running the shop or something. It would just be like you buy the asset, and then it takes in cards at it would probably find the market price, and you would set like a discount that you buy at and then a premium that you sell at, and you would just like arbitrage these cards, and it would be like a fun little thing for kids to come in and do, and like see what cards are in this machine, that type of thing. So that's my idea. What do we think? Good or bad?
I actually, if you can pull it off, like, I think the technology is the hardest part of this. I think it's a really good idea.
So
I always say I'm the ideas guy first. The implementation can always
the
be
R&D
figured out.
is a different department.
Yeah, right.
Jared, you're the R&D actually.
I was starting to think about how do you catalog it. Yeah.
All right, so here's why I think it's a bad idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
I think it's a bad idea in the same vein that a physical movie rental store is a bad idea, a la Blockbuster.
Damn, that's a good take.
It's creating a single space physical exchange. It could maybe work in a high population density place like, I don't know, New York City, Tokyo. Place where you have a high density of people, traffic, physical traffic, and also a high level of demand for trading cards. If you don't have that, then I think your machine's just going to sit idle, and I don't know what the upkeep is, but like it's not going to return a profit.
Well, I'm going to push back. Initially, I was like, oh yeah, like the DVD thing, that was definitely like a trend, and then it no longer exists,
which by the way, DVDs, I think, higher demand than trading cards.
Yes, but you can consume the DVDs digitally, which that's a major thing that has changed. Whereas the trading cards, you want the physical card still. Or
yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, like I said, I'm playing the trading card app, and that is definitely like, feeding some need for the physical cards, or but if you want to go play in a tournament,
it's a different thing. Yeah. No, the app is like, that's
it's a separate ecosystem.
Card collecting is still a thing, and I don't think the trading card app has killed it. I don't think it's taken anything away from it. If anything, it's added to the demand for physical cards.
Yeah, I would say, Maddox, this idea is a good idea if you also own the card shop. Because what you could do is this is like an automated way of like a person that you don't have to pay. Where what you could do is you could have it almost be like a standalone kiosk where you could put in like high value packs and high value cards that like you own in the shop, that if somebody just wants to go in there and pay $20 for like a high value pack, they go to the kiosk, they hit $20, out it comes. Or they could come in, slot all their cards in, and just do like a 1-to-1 trade. So like you could have it be like an automated little kiosk where people could come in and do the normal stuff that you shop in, but it basically takes that poor soul who had to sit there and go through all the cards. You're just replacing him. So you're taking like a salaried worker out of your cost and having it just be a standalone thing. But it could also sell cards in packs or individual cards on top of doing this kind of like putting your coins in and having it be wrapped. But you got to have both.
So basically as like a replacement to the card game shop.
Yeah.
I guess that's how you had conceived it originally.
Well, I was mostly focused on this autonomous ecosystem where people are buying and selling individual cards. But your point about selling like wrapped packs of cards is valid. And actually, in Japan they have card vending machines almost like in a lot of different places. So that's a thing that exists there. Something that's interesting. I said I was the card shop that I played at growing up closed down here, and I was thinking about opening one. So I was just chatting with ChatGPT about, like how would I run a card business? Like, how do you even, like, where do they make most of their money? That type of thing. And it said, and this is ChatGPT, so maybe some margin for error, but it said most card shops make the majority of their revenue from selling sealed packs. And they said that they sell them from anywhere between a 50% to a 200% markup, which just blew my mind. So honestly, like, if that's accurate, and then you're just taking the person you're taking a person needing to run a shop and the rent from a shop out, and you just have a vending machine, and you're just collecting a 50 to 200% margin. That's compelling.
And you could like sell mystery packs. Like you could take the people who are like dumping their cards in, and you could make a mystery pack that's like, who knows what's going to be in there, and you could sell it as like a markup.
The mystery pack is it's going to be, it's one of those things. It's like, it's going to be bad, but it's like almost too exciting of a proposition to pass up,
It's basically gambling. Let's pass it down.
That's true. Card games are kind of just children's gambling,
to an extent.
Yeah. Well, so there's my most recent idea. I honestly,
Thumbs up.
I like this one. I don't know if I'm going to pursue it in my lifetime, but I think this could be fun.
I'll do the R&D in the background.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
So what we're running at almost an hour 20 now. Should I talk about markets briefly, or should we just go into Jared's sports?
Yeah.
I'll just talk about Bitcoin.
We're a man down.
Bitcoin crossed 100K. That's pretty big.
Did we predict that was going to happen on the show? Because I know we talked about this last time, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I forget about what we talk about offline and what we talk about on air. Because Jerome sold his Bitcoin when we were the election episode.
Yep.
It was at near all-time highs, and I think I said to him, this is either the top or it is the beginning of a huge rally. And he took the under, I don't know what he
it's safe.
Yeah. He took his money off the table.
The wrong.
Yeah, he was wrong.
Option.
Yeah, he was. So, yeah, it post Trump getting elected, it rallied to 100K, through 100K. 100K has always been, it's just kind of a big psychological number, but 100K has been talked about in the crypto community as a pretty like milestone mark. People have been talking about it getting to 100K for a while, since 2021. I think in 2021 bull market, people were talking about it going to 100K. So we're 3 years late on that one, but we're there now. So if you want to, if we're referring back to the messages in our group chat, Jerome asked if you should short, now that it's hit 100K, should you short Bitcoin? And I believe I've been almost spot on with my response to him. The way things have played out up until this point is, I said it's probably going to go a few $1,000s above 100K, and then it'll sell off below 100K, and then it'll probably just trade around 100K for a little while until we get more information about more big picture stuff, like the Fed's positioning, more information about potential fiscal policy coming from the Trump administration, that type of thing. And so that's kind of what we've seen up until this point. And I think
according to MADDOX is a sage when it comes to Bitcoin predictions.
I wouldn't say
Also,
that.
according to the evidence.
The evidence points to it.
The recent evidence, anyways.
The recent evidence. But yeah, I think the important information coming up is the 17th and the 18th of December will be the next Fed meeting. And what you're either going to see there, what you're most likely going to see there is the Fed kind of reaffirming their commitment to cutting rates, which the economy's strong. You know, the data shows that the economy is strong and fine, and that inflation is still elevated and above their target. So put those things together, there's not really a need to cut rates, but they have been clear in their positioning that they're committed to cutting rates. And so if that's what happens, the Fed comes out and kind of reaffirms that position, and that's their stance still. Like, your best bet is just staying long crypto, long stocks, long gold. Gold has been an incredibly well-performing asset. I know most people don't invest in that, but yeah, long those assets and buying the dips as long as nothing changes. And as soon as something changes, you should be cautious. But
Come back here. We'll give you some more analysis.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, crypto's going up, stocks are going up, and so for most people that's people are happy about that, but because the value of their portfolio is going up. But the way I see it is, most people are long-term investors, or committing, saying they're long-term investors at least. So if you're really truly a long-term investor, the value of your assets going up tremendously very quickly in the short term is actually like counterproductive to what your long-term objectives are, because basically all that's happening is the future returns of this asset are just getting pulled into the future. So the expected future return should now be lower than it was previously. And if you're trying to accumulate assets and you're starting off on that journey, you would really rather the opposite be occurring. You'd rather the value of these assets be going down rather than up. We'll call that markets with MADDOX. I'm trying to commit
That's a good name.
It's a good name.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm glad we got to consensus on something. Yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to commit to touching on markets at least a little bit each episode, so we'll go with that from here on out.
What's the 3-year Bitcoin prediction?
3-year Bitcoin prediction. To be honest, I don't know. I don't really think in markets like in that time frame very often.
Or what's the let me rephrase it then. If you don't want to do the 3 years, what is the next seminal mark for Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's really that. It's so interesting when it gets to like surpassing the all-time highs, because now you're in price discovery territory where it's like there's no reference point anymore. So it's like it really is, nobody really knows.
To the moon.
I think that here, and I'm not saying that it's going to get to this number, but here's an interesting way to think about it conceptually. Bitcoin, and a lot of people are adopting Bitcoin as an alternative to gold, as a better version of what gold has done for many, many centuries. So if Bitcoin was to get to the same market cap as gold, so basically be like a 1-to-1 competitor with gold, it would still need to go up 10x from here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So if your view is that Bitcoin is a legitimate competitor to gold, or if it's a better alternative to gold, there's still a ton of room for returns. And gold is also going up a ton too right now. So
let's call it the 20% mark of gold. Or 10, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's like 10x right now,
doing x's into percentages is always weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, true. Or let's say 15. Let's say when it gets to 15% market cap of gold.
Yeah. anyway, if you think about it, like if you're investing in it for that reason, and then there's still plenty of room for it to go higher. Gold has been around a long time though, and gold is purchased as reserves by literal countries like central banks. So it's, well, I mean, I think it's possible in the long term. I think it's, we're a long way away from that. But yeah, I don't know. That's one way to think about the, even it being at 100K now and being at all-time highs, like that is one way to like kind of think about how much room there is like still for it to grow. And honestly, I just think, in the environment that we're in, where the Fed is, in my view, ignoring inflation data and, taking an accommodative monetary policy stance, dare I say, irresponsibly. Like, I just think that the demand for hard assets like crypto, or primarily gold, and then, crypto could be thought of as an alternative hard asset, specifically Bitcoin. I just think that people will increasingly see the importance in owning those types of assets.
So come back in 3 years and we'll have new analysis.
Well, I don't know. It's like I'm so hesitant because we're in this environment where everything's already kind of overvalued, and then also like, there is a lot of accommodative policy both on the monetary and fiscal side, and that's probably going to keep supporting asset prices, and they can probably keep going higher. That, like, eventually, like, we're going to get to a point where we're going to have to like deal with this stuff, and that's going to be very bad for asset prices. So I feel like we're like treading on thin ice right now, but it's like that's the whole problem with markets, is like the timing of it. So it's like, could this keep going on for 3 years? That seems like a really long time to me, but also I realize that honestly, this type of economic environment has been going on a lot longer than I have expected it would. So yeah, I don't know.
Keep tuning in.
It's like it's a big if then, or like, it's just binary. Like, it could be really, really good, or it could be really, really bad. I don't know. You just kind of like, that's why I said I don't really think over time frames like that. I mean, I think it's more helpful to either take the really, really long time frame approach. Okay, like when I'm retired now, or when I'm going to retire, like how am I going to invest for when I'm retired? Okay. Or taking information as it comes in and reevaluating like periodically over, maybe like months, or, not days is a little too frequently, but like,
how about podcast episodes? So
that's actually like the perfect time frame. Yeah. So that's how we're gonna,
for markets with markets with MADDOX.
MADDOX with markets.
MADDOX with markets.
Yeah, let's move on from markets with MADDOX to jogging with Jared, where Jared gives us the latest in sport. You don't like that?
Yeah, we'll go with the jogging pace for the sports this time.
It was either jogging or highlight. I didn't know. I thought jogging would be a little better.
I can do jogging. Yeah. So with the sports, I'm gonna make it a little bit more interactive this time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit kind of there's kind of like the overarching sports where kind of everything is, and then there's a kind of big sports event with the college football playoffs, and then there's been a lot of we're in the winter months of baseball, so some really big contracts are coming out. I want to get your guys' opinion on some of them. So we'll do kind of the high level recap first. If you're a fan of a bunch of different sports, the NBA is getting into midseason form. NHL is starting to gear up a little bit. If you're a Blackhawks fan, like I am for the NHL, it's not going good at all. Not really an NBA fan in general.
Why are you a Blackhawks fan?
I have family from Chicago, and I don't like any Tennessee sports, so the Preds were never an option. So
wait. Can we talk about that just briefly? Why didn't you like any Tennessee sports?
Because all of them are the same. They always talk about how this could be the year, and it's never true, and they never really do anything. So it just gets annoying after a while listening to it. Same way with Atlanta sports. They always talk about being able to do it, and they never actually are able to do it. The Braves in 2021 are the difference, at least in my lifetime. So I don't like hearing people say, "Oh, we can do it this year," and then they fail again.
For the audience, to inform everyone, we're all from Tennessee. We all grew up in Tennessee. I also had that same experience of, everyone always saying, "Oh, this year's going to be different. This year's the year." I just assumed that was all sports. I didn't know that was Tennessee specific.
It's more specific to Tennessee than it is a lot of other places in the world.
Interesting. So I just grew up hearing that, and I just was like, okay, sports isn't my thing. This is kind of silly. And I didn't think maybe I should look elsewhere. Maybe not everywhere is like this.
Not everywhere. Yeah, there are some pretty pessimistic organizations out there where it's never going to happen.
Vanderbilt football fans, for example, they're never like, this is our year.
Exactly.
All right, sorry to interrupt you there.
No. We want the interaction this time. So, yeah, if you're a fan of sports, there's a lot of them going on right now at different levels. All of them are kind of getting geared up. So that's kind of happening. NBA is about midseason form. NHL is getting there. Soccer, if anybody even cares about that. I mean, I think the Champions League is still going on. So there's some things out there. We'll kind of get back into those once we get, springtime. But right now, there's kind of two big things that happen. I mean, the NFL playoffs are about around the corner. Near the end of December, you're going to start seeing the contenders really lock themselves in. There's already some teams who have qualified for the playoffs. So we'll save that for the next episode. Hopefully the Ravens will have locked in a playoff, but who knows? Our defense is a liability, and Justin Tucker is washed apparently, which is just a weird concept to have to deal with. But so that's kind of the high level. There's a lot of things going on in the world. If you're interested in sports, you got a lot of different avenues. I want to get to the first one. I'm actually going to flip the order here. I want to talk about big baseball salaries that have come out recently. So the biggest one, okay, you know how everybody kind of lost their mind with Shohei Ohtani last year? He had the massive contract. Basically, he got paid $700 million to go play for the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was huge. And the Dodgers are big spenders, so they had already spent a bunch of money on everybody else. It was a massive contract, biggest in sports history. Okay, so Juan Soto.
You know about that, MADDOX, right?
All about
Probably.
it. Yeah.
Do you know who Shohei Ohtani is? Do you recognize that name?
I gotta be honest, man. I don't.
Okay.
Can you guess what country he's from? Shohei Ohtani.
Japan.
There you go.
Bam.
Here we go.
About him.
Japanese baseball is big in Japan, right?
It's getting really big now. It's been big for a while, but it's really getting elevated.
Have you guys seen Mickey? It's an old movie.
Mouse? Oh.
All right.
Man, MADDOX coming in with the nostalgia on this episode.
It's a good one. You guys should watch it. But anyway, it's about Little League baseball, and I think they played Japan in the World Series or something. Anyway,
you send us that, and I'm gonna send you a 15-minute video of Shohei Ohtani hitting home runs, and then we'll trade ideas after that.
Okay, fair.
Anyways, he signed an absolutely massive deal last year. So there's another player in baseball who's not considered. I don't think he's considered as good as Shohei Ohtani is, even if Shohei's just batting because he's also a pitcher. But this guy, Juan Soto, he was an MVP candidate this year, didn't win it, but he's a great player. $725 million. I
thought it was 65.
Okay, yeah, but more than Shohei Ohtani, 1 year after, and it's the biggest contract in sports history. I forget how many years it was. It's in the more than a decade, probably in that 12 to 16.
Okay, I got it. It's 15 years, $765 million.
Just an absolutely mind-boggling kind of contract, especially when you consider I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, Bryce Harper getting $330 million was a huge deal, and Mike Trout getting $400 million was a massive deal. So you've got, I'm just saying, Maddox, since you're about to be a new parent, get your children in whatever fashion into baseball. I don't, if boy, girl, doesn't matter. Just to get them into baseball. That's where the money is, apparently. So it's just amazing.
I think I could do baseball. I think baseball is safe enough that football is questionable these days.
Hard agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I could do baseball.
Yeah. But yeah,
Now,
there's been like a $1 billion spent in the baseball markets this year. It's incredible.
Now, Jared, can you reconcile? Maybe you can't, but I'm just going to ask you if you can. Can you reconcile this? I've heard for many, many years that baseball is a dying sport. Why is it that there's so much money in baseball?
These contracts, I don't know if I can. I don't think I can reconcile Juan Soto's contract. I can reconcile Shohei Ohtani's because his is just the money he brings in over the course of that contract and ticket sales and jersey sales, as well as just like the interest from like the entire country of Japan, especially for a West Coast team and getting those merchandise sales. Shohei Ohtani, I could see how his contract pays for itself. Juan Soto's a little harder, although I will say baseball being a dying sport is like a pretty consistent narrative over, let's at least call it, since the end of the steroid era. So like over the last 20 years. But I will say with the recent like rules changes, like attendance is rising and merchandise sales are rising. And maybe it's because you have these big names. But yeah, the Juan Soto deal is a harder one for me to wrap my head around. But Shohei Ohtani, if you just look at like the ad sales that he brought to LA just like this year and extrapolated it over the length of his contract, he pays for himself.
So could we baseball or any sports athlete could just be really thought of as like an asset, right? They are this business owns them and they generate revenues over time. So like all assets, they tend to go up in price over time. Can we attribute it to that? Or it's probably part of that, but or is more of it I feel like there's almost like a one up factor to this where it's like, oh, to show them how like much we care about them, we have to like outbid like whoever was the previous like it's like if the highest contract was 500 million and then someone was like, oh, we'll offer you like 475. It's like, it's not like showing that we think you're like showing how bad we want you, Yeah. It's like, it's almost like you have to go to the higher number to like show that, I don't know. Is that part of it or no?
Well, what I was going to say is I think a part of it, and I don't know if this is exactly the case with Juan Soto, but there's always, of the 30 to 32 teams that exist in a league for American sports at least, there's always one idiot who will do that. There's always one idiot GM who will pay that just a little bit more for somebody who might be like middling talent, but is considered like respectable. A great example of this is Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback in the NFL. He's got a bunch of hype around him. He's pretty young. He makes like the most money in the NFL. He's won like 2 playoff games in his entire career. He's on a horrible franchise this year.
Hey, that's pretty good for the Jaguars.
It is pretty good for the Jaguars. But I mean, like, he makes more than Lamar Jackson, who's a multi-time MVP. He makes more than Patrick Mahomes, who's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. He makes more than all these people who have so many more accolades and are about the same age as him, like all things considered. So there's always a GM who's willing to be a dumbass. So it's like, it's almost like if you don't provide that contract to your asset, they will find it somewhere else. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, for example, if the Mets hadn't offered Juan Soto that executive suite, he would have gone to the Yankees.
Yeah.
So the next GM is going to have to offer 2 executive suites and $765 million. That's the one up.
Exactly. Yeah. So absolutely crazy spending spree that's happening right now. It's not even over. There's not guys at the Juan Soto level, but there's still a couple guys out there. Pete Alonso's a big name who on the Mets now probably doesn't have a role to play. But there's still a couple guys out there, so we might keep going past that billion mark.
So another callback on tying the sports into previous topics. Do trading cards like become for these people? Like, are they still popular, or are they worth more, or is it just not work like that? I'm not familiar with the sports card trading market at all, so
I think at like in the course of like during their career, the cards aren't as valuable. It's usually if they have like historic seasons. So like Shohei Ohtani basically did something nobody else has ever done before with like the amount of home runs and stolen bases he had in 1 year. So his card 30 years from now, probably it's more valuable after this year than it was before this year happened. I guess if that makes sense. But like his card right now had like middling gain in asset. Those are the kind of cards where they just get exponential once the players have retired and you can kind of just settle with their stats. So those cards are just like their assets always either get better or they like plane out. But in the course of their career, they don't move very much.
Okay, I'm not gonna. I want to get into like the dynamics of sports trading cards, but I feel like that's not the purpose here. So,
and they don't sell for that much. I mean, the biggest ones sell for like maybe I don't know, like $100,000. I don't know. It's nothing
that much. Not that much
for like single value assets. But yeah, so huge deals going on in baseball. So we can come back to that if we want to, but the biggest thing for maybe relevant to the people on this podcast, at least, well, if Jerome wants to claim both North Carolina and Tennessee. One, Bill Belichick is now the coach at North Carolina, which is kind of insane when you just think about him being like the greatest NFL coach of all time. But more importantly, for those who are attending Tennessee, the college football playoff is here. Tennessee is in it. Alabama is not in it. To some controversy there. I personally, as an Alabama fan, we deserve not to be in it, so I'm kind of okay with it. But where the college football playoff is right now, a little bit of controversy in those last seeds, but it's about to be the most wonderful time of the year for college football fans.
So you said Alabama didn't deserve to be in it. Were they just performing badly, and that's why you said that, or
two bad losses? So they lost to Vanderbilt. We want to talk about Vanderbilt fans. And then they lost to Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, and that Oklahoma team is just not a good team. So Alabama just played horribly, lost a game where they didn't even score a touchdown. So they're really not a playoff team. Not that SMU is that good either, but Alabama did not earn their way in.
SMU had a tougher road. They got the death penalty.
They did get the death. It's actually kind of cool to see SMU back on like the competitive like playing field. I'll take that this year.
So my younger brother is in the band at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and he texted in our family group chat the other day in all caps, "I'm going to Columbus." And I responded first and said, "Am I supposed to know what this means?" And then my family proceeded to laugh at me after that.
Yep.
So yeah, that shows how detached I am.
But
also, by the way, the first time someone in history has ever been excited about going to Columbus.
True. Very true. Yeah. Well, I mean, Maddox, I think I remember having a conversation with you. So does that mean you're going to see your brother during the holidays or not?
Oh, well, I was always going to see him, but it mattered when he was going to come. And so, yeah, that decided. Normally he comes the day after Christmas, but this year, because he's going to the game, he's coming before Christmas, which doesn't really make sense in objective standards. But in my brother's weird way of, basically, he's got a kid. He wanted to bring the kid here and then go to Columbus, and then he's going to come back here. I think is the plan. And he wanted to do all that before Christmas rather than coming after Christmas.
After, yeah.
By the way, your brother who's in the band does not have a kid, right?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
That kind of got lost in the story.
Okay, my bad. This is my older brother.
Yeah. Okay. Well, see, there you go. See, sports affecting your life. There you go.
All around us.
The first round matchups are Texas Clemson. Texas is going to win that. Penn State SMU. Penn State's going to win that. Indiana Notre Dame. I don't care. And then Tennessee and Ohio State. That's probably the one that at least people in our lives are going to care about. But I do think, kind of in general, that's the one that has the most juice to it in the first round game. So we actually know somebody who's a part of our friend group who's going to be going to that game as well. Not in this podcast, so I'm not throwing shade at anybody on that. But we do know somebody who's going to it. So big game for Tennessee fans. Let's see if they can actually pull through with it. My guess, no. I think Ohio State's going to beat up on them a little bit, but we're getting into the most wonderful time of the year for college football fans, and the playoff is here. Let's see who can go out there and get it. So yeah, there's that. That's a little recap on sports. We'll run it again next time when the special guest shows up.
You're not the special guest. You gotta quit calling yourself that. You're trying to. I can feel you trying to. Weasel your way out of this commitment that we've.
Yeah.
And we're not going to let it happen.
Yeah. Keep me honest.
Anyways, that has been Jogging with Jared. We'll workshop the name though, but okay. Moving right along into recess, where we do lots of fun and silly things and just try to talk about more casual things. Maddox, I think you had something prepared for today.
Well, no. So nobody really had anything prepared, but thankfully our good
dearly departed friend.
Yes.
Yeah, who's in the Pacific.
He departed to Japan.
He left some breadcrumbs for us to consume here.
Luigi Mangione.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to take what he's left in the file here and see if we can run with that. Let's just do this as a quick game. Let's not linger on it too long. But so he's got a thread of tweets here. The initial tweet says, "What's considered trashy if you're poor, but classy if you're rich?" And we've got 4 top answers here. So let's see if you guys can get the 4. Again, it's something that's trashy if you're poor, but classy if you're rich.
The first thing that came to my mind was cocaine. Is that on there?
So hard drugs is one of the answers. Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
I like that.
There you go. That's a good start.
Like worn out clothes. I don't know. Damn.
It's a good guess. I actually like that guess.
It's a good. I mean, yeah. I made this a game. It could just be your guys' opinions too, but
that's off the board. It's off the board. Damn. Substance abuse is a really good one.
I don't know. I mean, what are some ideas? Like, things related to work. Is it like?
I'll give you. I'll start giving you some hints. There was hard drugs was one of them. There is another one related to substances, but it's a more specific activity. This is maybe an activity that goes on college campuses more frequently. That might be a little bit pointing you in the wrong direction.
Taking shots? I don't know.
Close.
I was gonna say hard drinking.
It's a specific type of drinking.
Maybe like drinking during the day.
Yes, day drinking.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a good one.
So, all right, we got 2 left. Those were the 2 substance ones. One is related to, let's call it money, wealth, and
gambling.
No, but that's a good answer. I like that answer.
Man, proximity, but not being able to answer it. That's the name of the game for me. Money.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get the money one.
Yeah. What is it?
Tax avoidance.
Oh my god! Of course,
that's a good one.
And then the last one, I don't know if you guys will get. It's pretty clever. I think it's a good one too. But you want me to just?
Is there any category?
Genre. You want to hint it or just tell you?
Hint it.
Okay. It's a little bit racist.
Oh my god.
Or
I don't like this.
Yeah, okay, just go ahead and tell us.
Just go ahead and tell us.
I don't know if racist was right. It's
prejudiced.
Well, it's just I don't know. It's speaking 2 languages.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
I see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I don't
Anyways. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was
Oh.
it.
Any I don't know. Any reflections on? I don't know. I wish I could speak 2 languages. I'm trying really hard to learn a language.
I was gonna say, I don't really
Yeah.
feel like that's trashy. for,
Well,
like,
I think
for people to
that's
have
why
to-
I said it's a little bit racist. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, it's just insinuating that,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know.
I think it implies like if you're like for example children of immigrants.
Mhm.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't gotta.
You know who
dwell
can
on it
speak
too long.
multiple languages? Who's on this podcast?
Jerome.
Jerome. There you go. May he rest in peace as he
Yeah.
completes his flight.
Fun fact. I bet not a lot of people know this, but fun fact about Jerome. Everyone, Jerome can speak Japanese fluently. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah. He's about to go test it out.
Yeah, he's about to go test it out. So,
Do
all right. Anyways,
I was just gonna. Do you think he would consider it fluent? I know
I
that.
would
I know that in recent years he's. I don't know. Like
Walked it back.
his confidence and his Japanese speaking ability has decreased, but I would guess he was still like by a technical standard would probably be fluent, right?
yeah, I would, at least conversational. So, and
Yeah.
to everyday Americans, that's pretty impressive, I think. So,
Agreed.
Okay. Well,
Jackson,
anyways,
you want me to send you the official outro so you can read it?
yes, please.
We're gonna have to. This gets edited before it gets posted anyway, so
Okay.
I have a feeling a lot of the dead space is gonna get edited out.
In fact, we can probably edit this whole thing out about the languages thing, and we could just
I honestly
okay.
was
Honestly,
feeling
we can
that.
edit. We can edit this whole recess out. No kappa. It kind of was. It wasn't the best part of the episode. I'll just say
Well,
that.
dang, dude, I did my best trying to make something out of nothing, but
You did
lemons
good. You
is
did
at a
good.
lemonade.
And on that note, thank you guys for watching the episode. As always, if you want to interact with us, the professors, and talk about all the current events live and as they're happening, make sure to join the classroom, our Discord. The link is down below. And also, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel to watch the video version of this podcast. We also have an Instagram and a TikTok account, both at 9 Degrees Pod, so make sure to check those out. Thank you guys for watching the episode. I hope I was a good substitute teacher. And class is dismissed.